Hey everyone, thank you for joining Digital Minds webinar today on social engineering with our guest speaker Steve Fox from Security Pursuit. A little housekeeping up front. This presentation will last a little longer than usual, more in the 30-minute range, and we'll have time for questions at the end. There's a chat feature in your lower right-hand corner that you can send questions to, and we will take those at the end. And all attendees are in listen-only mode, and the webinar is being recorded and will eventually be uploaded to our YouTube channel. A little about myself. I'm Jordan Knipp. I'm the marketing manager. I'm the one who hosts these webinars and sends you the emails that you get about this. And with that, I will hand it over to Michael, whom you all should know, the managing partner of Digital Minds International.
Well, thank you, Jordan. As always, we really appreciate your time here. We know and value your time. We try to make these short and to the point and try to get really pertinent, relevant information out to our clients and prospective clients, and we want to really keep it short and to the point. And so in this case, we're going to be a little longer today because we really have some good content, and we have one of our guest partners on here, Steve Fox, as Jordan mentioned, from Security Pursuit, and he's got some content that I think that your company would want to know and kind of want to know what's going on behind the scenes and when you're when certain things are going on and doing the social engineering. So with that little teaser of an intro, I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Fox with Security Pursuit, and I'll leave it to him. Thank you, Steve, for joining us today.
All right, thanks so much, Michael. I'm really excited to join you on the webinar here. So Security Pursuit, real quick background, we are a cybersecurity firm. We provide a broad range of services from broad-reaching security audits of your IT systems to very deep dive technical penetration testing or ethical hacking against your network and web application assets. And then we also do a lot of training as well, specific to security and security awareness, a lot of the topics we're going to cover today. The one other piece that we provide, which is probably the least favorite for our clients, is we also provide data breach incident response. When companies get hacked and they don't want to end up like the next Target or Home Depot, we'll be called in to help them manage that response. So what we're going to talk about today is very specifically email phishing when it comes to the realm of social engineering. Now, you think about securing your technical assets, and we tend to think about making sure the network assets are patched and firewall rules are in place and antivirus is up and running. But one of the biggest threats, actually by far the biggest threat that has been hitting companies with data breaches is the non-technical approach to hacking, social engineering. The basic idea is you can have the firewalls in place, you can have the best technical controls in place, 24/7 people monitoring the network, the web apps. But if I can send an email to your staff and get one of them to give me their login credentials, I've completely bypassed all of your technical controls. And so it really is easier than hacking technically a lot of times to break into the network. So what we see looking back over the past few years, over 90% of major data breaches, the initial toehold into the victim's environment was through a phishing email. So we're going to talk about phishing email today. We've probably all heard the talks about don't click the link, don't open the attachment, bad things will happen. But we like to take it a step further and actually show you those bad things. We're going to show you how the attackers target you and get into your systems, the types of data they steal, and types of persistence controls they install on your network to maintain access. So we're really going to go through where the rubber meets the road to kind of really give you some good insight. My goal is to hopefully increase your vigilance to how these attacks go down. They're so very common. So the first step, if I want to attack you as the bad guy, is I need to get a picture organization. I'm going to target you. I need to get a list of your employees' email addresses. And so how am I going to do that? On the left side of the screen, we're looking at, when you look at the Linux screenshot, we call it the scary black screen. This is a Linux tool called the Harvester. It's a free tool. Anyone can go download it onto their Linux build. And it basically is designed to harvest email addresses. So in this example, I've given it the use case nasa.gov, and you can see where it's going to go out, and it uses a whole slew of resources out there on the web to try and identify email addresses that match your domain name. So it's looking at Google, it's looking across your website domains, it's looking at a variety of other search engines, ultimately delivering a list to the bad guy of email addresses at your domain. To get a little even more low-tech than that, the center screenshot that we're looking at, it's the second one back, that's the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. They're the ones who oversee all the banks, oversee the FDIC, etc. And they're running off this old playbook from the early 90s when the web was the new thing. And people thought, hey, let's go ahead and just put all of our email addresses of all of our staff right there on the website, so it's easy for consumers to come find their addresses and email us. A lot of businesses, even government agencies, are still following this practice. You've basically just given away the list for phishing to the attackers. So we recommend, website developers, content managers, look at their websites and take away personal email addresses that might be posted on the websites. At the end of the day, there's really not a whole lot you can do, unfortunately. In the day and age of LinkedIn, on the example on the right, here's an example. We search for Security Pursuit, my company, and you're going to get a list of all of the employees at Security Pursuit. And yes, you're only getting their names. You don't have our internal email addresses. But what you'll find is at the end of the day, all businesses tend to follow a standard with their email. So it might be first initial last name, like sfox@securitypursuit.com. Might be first name dot last name, steve.fox@securitypursuit.com. But at the end of the day, there's only about half a dozen standards that are typically in use, and the bad guy can figure out what your standard is and then apply all of your staff names off of LinkedIn, and they've just built a list to attack you with. So we're going to talk about the 3 types of phishing attacks. We have phony forms, where I send an email to your staff and tell them to give me sensitive information. I stand up a spoofed website and fool them into disclosing info to me. There's booby-trapped links, where if I can send them an email and simply get them to click a link in the email, I can infect their computer with malware or viruses. It's known as the drive-by download. And then finally, the third type of phishing attack, malicious email attachments. This is kind of the old school. For 20 years, we've all known, don't open attachments from people you don't know and trust. This still goes on, and this is the third technique that is still frequently used in email phishing. All of these techniques we're going to go through also can be delivered using both email or SMS text messages as the delivery method, and so we'll go through both. So in this first screenshot, I've now got a list of your company's email addresses. Here's an email I might send out to your staff. Good morning, we're currently in the process of upgrading our Outlook web app to improve access for associates. We're taking steps to ensure proper security controls are in place to protect corporate information as the new system is implemented. Please confirm Outlook web access is accessible using the link below. Your help is appreciated. Now, if the recipients, the victims, your staff, receive this email from me and they click the link to Outlook web access, they're going to land on a page out there on the web that looks just like this. This may be very familiar to you folks who are running, Microsoft Exchange is by far and large the default email server used by most businesses. And if you have enabled web access to your employees to access their email, this is what the interface looks like. It's the Outlook web app. They can access their email from home and what have you. And there are different versions. The older version was blue and purple colored. There's variations. Maybe you're on Office 365, you've moved to the cloud. You know, we basically have all of these different login pages spoofed. So depending on your organization, we're going to come up with a ruse that's really going to resonate with your staff. When they land on this page, the people who land on this page by clicking my link, first off, we've now logged that they clicked the link. Because this means that they could have been susceptible to a drive-by download and malware infection. And so we'll report this back to you. Of the 100 people we emailed, these 35 people clicked the link in this use case, and this represents 35 users that could have been infected with malware. Then it goes a step further. We're telling them, please log into this form so we can verify that your business email login works on our new email system. When the users log into the form, I'm sitting on the back end looking at the database. And so here we're looking at a screen of the actual database that I'm watching after I send your staff the phishing email. And so here I'm literally hitting refresh every 30 seconds because what we find, you know, we've done hundreds and hundreds of these campaigns over the last 6 or 8 years, and we see a lot of aspects of human behavior that resonate in mass, regardless of what organization, what sector, what have you. And so one of the things we find is when we send that phishing email, we generally get a lot of responses. Maybe over half of our responses are going to come in within the first hour. In fact, a lot of them are going to come in within the first minute or two. So as soon as I send that phishing email, I'm refreshing my view of the database. Here's what you're looking at on the screen here. And I'm just waiting for the credentials to come in. You see I'm tracking if someone submits their username and password. I'm tracking the date and time they submitted it, the remote IP address they were connected through. I'm looking at what user agent or what web browser they're connecting from, because this may help me target a piece of malware to their platform in a drive-by download setting. I'm also capturing their username. I'm capturing their password. You know, here you're looking at an encrypted representation of their password. When I steal your data, I'm a good custodian of that data. I can't say that the bad guys who are hacking you are doing this. They're probably doing things like emailing it to themselves in an insecure fashion or storing it in a database that's unencrypted because it's easier to set that up. But we store all the data in a very secure fashion in our database. That's the password field. We're also, you see the password length column. We're actually taking statistical analysis of the user's passwords. And now we can speak to things like compliance mandates. So, for example, in this list, you see all of the passwords are greater than 8 characters length. That meets the compliance mandate. You do see a couple entries of password length 0, a couple from the bottom. Our form actually allows them to enter whatever they like because we want to see what they might try to enter. So you see the 0, that was probably someone prodding or testing the form, but in generally every other case on the screenshot we see password lengths of 8 to 14 characters. Now this attack, as I mentioned before, works incredibly well against the mobile phones, SMS text message. When we have a brand new client, they've never phished their staff before, we typically get, with an email campaign, about a 15% response rate on credentials. So if you give me 100 names to email in your company, generally speaking, again, over doing hundreds of these campaigns over the years, we find that I will probably get, give or take, about 15 sets of network credentials when I email 100 people. We've been doing that for years. SMS text delivery is what you're looking at here on this screen. Now, we did our first campaign maybe a year and a half ago, where we basically followed a similar ruse. Our goal here was to get network credentials to breach the organization's network. And so what we did in this case was, rather than send a message to email addresses of the employees, we send a message to the mobile phone numbers of the organization's employees. And we created a ruse that says, we're registering your mobile devices with the network to enhance security. Now, I don't even know what that means. We're not actually doing anything here, but it sounded like a great ruse to send them a text message and ask them to give me network credentials. So on the left, you see the first screen. This is the text message they received from us. It says, Company XYZ is in the process of registering employees' mobile devices. Please enroll your device using the link below. An employee who clicks on that URL, you see the screen in the middle, takes them to a web page. We put their logo on the top of the screen, and we give the victim a message. Please enter your network username and password to securely register your device. Now at this point, they submit their credentials, and we give them a thank you screen. Thank you, you're successfully registered. You may go on with your day. And you'd be amazed that people click continue, they're forwarded to the company website, and they think they've done their part. They go on with the day. No one reports it to IT. It's amazing how this just slides through the mentality of the workers. You know, really what we find when employees make mistakes and compromise a company, they're not bad people. They're just trying to do their jobs. Everybody's rushed at work. Everybody's busy. And so, you know, that's one of the biggest symptoms of companies that get compromised is the employees either rushing through a process that they've maybe been asked to do by HR, something like what we see in this phishing attack, or we see, when we do see employees cutting established processes, it's usually not because they're bad people, they're bypassing an established business process because they're trying to get their jobs done more efficiently. So you hear a lot of talk about the insider threat, and certainly we see that, but to us, the biggest inside threat is having an uneducated workforce who's savvy to these sorts of attacks that you're learning about today. So here we jump into, everything we just looked at was sending your staff an email and asking them to disclose to us sensitive information. Tell me your network credentials. The second type of phishing we're going to look at here is what's known as the booby-trapped link. In this case, you're going to receive an email. It may look very legitimate. This one purportedly comes from the IRS. It's co-branded with their imagery, their logo, same color palette, same formatting of text and fonts. And the message reads, filing and paying your taxes is an important part of living and working in the United States. The subject or issue is unreported or underreported income, fraud application. So they put the recipient really on edge. What fraud? I'm always honest with my taxes. I'm always on time. And it says to review and solve the problem, click this link. And you see a link, 2015 Federal 1040 PDF. If you click that link, you may be redirected to a website, and your computer is now infected with malware or viruses. And we're going to look here in a moment at exactly what they're doing with these infections. Before we jump to that, the other second way that you can get malware or infections on your machine through a phishing email is going to be through the old school technique of I'm just going to send you an email with an attached file that looks legitimate but is actually a virus. So here we see a Microsoft Word document as the attachment. Now I like to use this as an example screenshot. The presentation of this is just horrible. It's highly unlikely I'm going to respond to this email. You look at the domain name, it's from the .ar top level domain. I don't even know what that is. Great favor, the spelling is in British English or misspelled English. You look at the the name of the Word document, Microsoft Lottery Email Draw United Kingdom .docx. Nothing about that resonates me. I haven't been to the United Kingdom in 35 years. I don't play the lottery. And so this is an example of an email that is pretty easy to spot. But I like to point out, in our previous example with the IRS email, that one looked very legitimate. Same color palette down to the HTML color scheme, same fonts, the IRS logo. And so I like to use this as an example of a really high-end design on a phishing email versus a more low-end design on an email that's going to be much easier to spot. But you have to realize that they're all coming at you. And just because you identified this low-end email every time doesn't mean you're going to be catching the malicious messages every time. So what happens when you open up the attachment or when you click the link and become victim to a drive-by download, what happens when there is a virus or malware installed on your computer? Now here's an example of the control panel that a bad guy is looking at, and it's now running on your computer. You don't see this as the user. Your machine is not running slowly. Your antivirus has not popped up alerts. But this is a way that the bad guy remotely from anywhere around the globe using the internet can now connect to your computer and control it. They can do everything from downloading files off of your computer to steal your sensitive documents, Word docs, spreadsheets, databases, anything they like. They can upload files to your computer, so they can install further malware and a virus. They can do things to maintain further persistence on your box. On the left-hand side, bottom half of the screen, you see a bunch of buttons that the attacker, he can click on this button and it does a command for him. So this gives you a kind of a rundown of some of the things he can do. I was always taken by how they prioritized that the very first option in the wizard buttons over here would be open and close the victim's CD-ROM drive. But anyway, I'll leave you to ponder that. But from practical jokes like making the guy think his computer's gone nuts to all the ways you look at the bottom of the screen, you see the really more malicious things. Disabling cPanel, editing the reg edit that allows the bad guy to edit the registry on your computer and change configuration issues. Script injection, there is an amazing amount of, they basically have full control, admin control on your box. So are there any Mac users in the audience? Show of hands. Just kidding. What we see is increasingly over the years, more and more Mac platform has become popular, not just with the graphic designers, but becoming a more popular computer for the end users. And there's been a long time misconception that Macs don't get viruses. Here is the Mac version of the bad guy's backdoor. The remote application, remote access Trojan is the technical term, allows the bad guy, once again, remote access to control your infected Mac computer in this case. He's allowed to do a lot of the same features. He basically has full privilege on your machine. But you can tell it's the Mac version because it has nicer graphics here. But so what happens? I've gotten credentials from you. I've infected your machine. You know, with infected machines, we've seen these screenshots of full administrative privilege. The other really, really huge one that's just been exploding the last year, it's been around for 5, 6, 8 years, but the last year or two has been really exploding in the number of occurrences, is what's known as Cryptolocker attacks. In the Cryptolocker attack, a bad guy is basically, once he infects your machine, he's going to encrypt all of your data files, Word docs, spreadsheets, everything that is not a system file. He will encrypt it so your files are not usable and then demand payment. Usually for the end user, that's about 1 Bitcoin or $400. There have been cases with hospitals being breached over the last month or two, paying in excess of $20,000 to the attackers to basically get the encryption key, which then allows the victim to decrypt their files. So the Cryptolocker attacks are probably the #1 result of getting a computer infected that's really been surging over the last 6 to 12 months. So moving away from these infected computers, we're going to step back to what happens if your employees give away their credentials. They didn't get infected with malware, you had great controls in place and your systems blocked that attack, but what if your employees actually gave up their network credentials to our phishing attack? Well, the first thing I'm going to do as the attacker is I'm going to start logging into your systems. I'm going to come right here into that victim's inbox, and I'm going to start looking for sensitive emails. The last slide we were looking at passwords, so I'll go search the inbox for passwords, and maybe I will find a slew of emails where the victim has gone through the forgot password functionality on a website and had their password emailed to them. So yes, a lot of them are one-time use passwords from more sophisticated sites like your bank or PayPal, But when you look at these small, self-written, custom-written e-commerce web shops, a lot of those are maintaining their customers' passwords in a non-secure fashion. And these are cases where if you go to a site and you say, I forgot my password, and it emails you your password that you set up 4 years ago on the website. Oh, your password's monkey123. There's a good chance that that email is not being stored securely, the password functionality of the website. You'll notice that your banks, if you say forgot my password, they never tell you your password. They say, fine, you have to reset it, go through this process. So once I've compromised your user accounts, I'm going to look for passwords to other systems I may compromise. On this slide right here, we're looking at how it goes even further. Just because you as the business owner may be thinking, well, so what? One of my staff gave up access to their email inbox. How much damage can really be done? Well, as people move to the cloud, the damage that can be done, the risk that's posed to your organization grows exponentially. So here we're looking at a slide where another thing I'll do in Office 365 or any email account, I'm going to also search for things like voicemail. A lot of your more modern VoIP, voice over IP telephone systems now have the functionality that if I leave a voicemail for your staff member, it's going to not only leave a voicemail, but it's going to wrap that up in an MP3 or WAV file and send it to your staff member as an email. So if he's out on the road, he'll get an email that says, hey, John, you got a voicemail. Click here to listen to it. Well, if I'm a bad guy and I have phished John's email account, I can now listen to all of his voicemails. So here's sort of the next step of how we're going to pivot out and get beyond the email accounts. Now we're listening to your employees' voicemails, which might have a higher propensity to have sensitive information. I was taught for years, don't email sensitive information, email the basics, and then call the guy and tell him over the phone the sensitive piece, like the password. And it's okay to leave a voicemail, just don't do it over email. Well, now I'm getting part two. I'm getting those voicemail sensitive pieces. So that's a great technique we use in phishing as well. We'll take it a step further. If I really want to target your organization through email phishing, before I even send the email, I'm going to get a sense of what your organization has exposed to the internet that I might attack or gain access through. So on the left, we're looking at a screenshot. I ran an Nmap scan. It's a scan that identifies services running and exposed to the internet. So I've run a scan against securitypursuit.com. And what this shows is all of the ports that are open and exposed to the internet. What I wanted to point out in this slide, I've highlighted these line items. You'll see a certain set of ports that are very interesting to me, the attacker who is phishing you. I see port 21 FTP. I see 80 and 443. That's your web traffic. I see port 2082, the InfoWave service. InfoWave, that's actually labeled for cPanel. This is the slide you see on the right-hand side of the screen. And cPanel is what is used for your website administrators to run the back end of your website, run the databases, run the code, password protect directories, so on and so forth. Complete control of the website is managed through cPanel, at least in the case of the vast majority of Apache or Linux-based websites, which is greater than 50% of websites out there. So cPanel, it's one of the most common management consoles for running a website. Well, if I'm going to phish your folks, I'm going to take a look at what your organization has exposed to the internet before I even send that phishing email. So now when John gives me his username and password, I'm going to not only log into his inbox, which I know is going to work, that's the credential he gave me, but I'm also going to do things like maybe I can log into your cPanel. Maybe that credential works in your FTP server, or better yet, maybe you have a VPN concentrator running where employees can connect and work from home. And so there actually is an account set up with the same username and password for this user who gave me their account from the email phishing campaign. So you can start to see where getting the email response to provide username and password can get a vast level of access into your organization that goes way beyond just that one customer or employee's inbox. Now let's take it a step further. Everyone loves the cloud. They love the value proposition of we're going to move everything to the cloud, and this way we don't have to run our own servers, we don't have the hardware expense, we don't have the software licensing expense other than what we're paying for our cloud services. We don't even have to have staff to run our boxes anymore. We're just going to put it on the cloud, and it will be managed by the cloud provider. What we see is that people are not only migrating, for example, their email for their organization over to the cloud, but you look at the icons on the Office 365 portal, there's an incredible array of functionality offered to the business who moves over to their platform. Some of these we don't care about, but the ones that are really interesting to me as a malicious hacker who has phished you and now logged in to this account, this is your customer's account, we see the email. We also see things like the tasks. I can maybe look at his calendar. The most exciting ones are things like the OneDrive. We see Excel Online. With these cases, we see organizations moving very sensitive documents out to the cloud service. They're going even so far in some cases to retiring the internal network file share that everyone uses, and they're just going to put it all out there on the cloud, and so now all the staff can log into the cloud and share files that way, and they'll use that to collaborate. Well, as the attacker, that's fantastic, because now through simply getting one of your employees' email addresses on the phishing campaign, I can access all of this information. Here is an actual campaign we ran where we were able to, through this exact technique I just showed you, log into the O365 account, go into their file shares. We basically identified a list of all of the logins to their bank accounts, financial institutions, and other sensitive servers. And it was all stored on an Excel spreadsheet, not encrypted, and ours for the taking through a simple email. So I really like to use this right here as an example of how through just a phishing email, proverbial air quotes, an attacker can really go from 0 to 100 and have just full access to your network, all of your third-party services like your bank accounts that you're connecting to as a business, all of your web assets, you name it. The bad guy can really take this thing from 0 to 100 with a single set of credentials, depending on a number of factors. But here's an example where just one set of credentials got you the whole way. So that's really it. That's all I've got. I hope you have had your eyes opened a little bit. I hope you didn't get too terrified. I hope you were entertained as much as you were terrified. But truly, I'm very passionate about this stuff. We've been, helping organizations protect their information. That's what this is all about today, is protecting your sensitive information and your bank accounts. At the end of the day, that's what is the core essence of every business. And so we really just can't underscore how important it is to get the right training to your entire staff. And I really mean that by everybody from the CEO down to your temp workers. We define this population as anybody in your organization who has a network login assigned to them or an email account assigned to them should be required to get this training. You need to up the vigilance level of your folks. And so we'd love to help you with the technical pen testing and the audits, but when you really look at where the rubber meets the road, those things are very important. But understanding the social engineering threats and making sure that all of your employees who have computer accounts understand these threats is absolutely critical to securing the network. That is the weakest link. So with that, I think that wraps up my piece, and I'll hand it back to the folks at Digital Minds.
Well, Steve, thank you so very much. I hope everyone enjoyed this, and I hope you see why we've partnered with Security Pursuit and the vast knowledge and experience they bring to the table. And we think the value that as Digital Minds and our partnership with them can bring to organizations who we provide services for. And I really thank Steve for going into the aspects of the security and what the bad guys are doing, and have some people have a better understanding of what little things, what some little compromise can do and lead to. So I think with that, we're going to hand that. If you have any questions about this, and you would like for us to be involved in helping your organization, if you can give us a call at our company at the number listed here, or shoot us an email at sales@dmisys.com. We'll be glad to work with you, and we can bring in Security Pursuit and work with Security Pursuit to get that information and get that training for you. And I think it just the value there is just enormous nowadays with the social engineering and the way the bad guys are just changing their techniques. So with that, I'm going to back over to Jordan.
All right. So it doesn't look like we have any questions from this, but once again, if you have any, please email us, contact us, and we'd love to help you out further. Everyone who attended today will be sending you a Starbucks gift card, a little $5 gift card to have some coffee on us. We really appreciate your time. And thank you for attending today. A short survey will pop up following the webinar, and we'd love further feedback from it. And if you have any other ideas or topics you'd love discussed in the future, feel free to reach out. So with that, we really appreciate everyone coming today.